genetically modified certain seeds. You know, they tried to genetically modify certain seeds to make them resistant to pests. So they mostly do that with corn, soybeans, cotton, and canola. Those are some of the main crops where they use genetically modified organisms. But what can happen oftentimes as those seeds spread, you know, they contaminate the seeds that are not genetically modified, and they sort of cause those other seeds to die out. And so smaller farmers who are not using GMOs, they're not able to be sustained as the other seeds are blown into their direction. The EPA has what is called a maximum legally, there's a abbreviation for it, but it's maximum legally residual limit. So for pesticides, those are the maximum amount that you're allowed to have. And so you can look at different reports to see what kind of pesticides are in our water and whatnot. And this is one link. I don't know if you all can see it, maybe not. Can you all see the website? No, maybe not.
Yes.
We can see it, John.
We see it.
So this is one link that is oftentimes, this is from the CDC, and I'll put them in the chat, but this can be used to get some information about some different common pesticides. It has some substances here, and you can click on some of the different substances and see some of their health effects. So different substances have different health effects. It shows you the organ systems that are affected, body weight, cardiovascular, endocrine, and there are so many studies that have to be done in order to determine these effects. And then it tells you what it is and how it's transmitted and where it's found. So there's a lot of interesting sources that you can use. A lot of these have been banned. I think some of these that are listed here may have been banned. For example, the DDT. I know that one has been banned. It tells you that it was banned in 1972. So you can get some information from that too. That is from the C. Okay. Can you all see the slide?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So with the pesticides, how to avoid them? Well, one way that you can avoid drinking the chemicals in your water, you know, well, we always hope that the water is being purified the way that it's supposed to be, and we'll talk about that also. But another thing,
You did not go back to the slide. You are still on the research.
okay. Let's say it doesn't let me go to either or. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So one thing that you can do is get the water filter. A lot of these water filters have the ability to filter the water. They use the carbon, the charcoal activated carbon, which we'll talk about later. And then you also have this term, somewhat controversial term called organic. I know a lot of people like to eat organic. So organic, you know, organic, really the definition of it is a farmer saying that they're not using certain kinds of pesticides in their food. Now, a lot of people will put organic on a label, but it will not necessarily be, it will not be organically organic, if you want to say it that way. So how do you know what is organic, what is not organic? This is the logo that is used from the USDA. That this is what is determined to be organic, you know. So in order for it to truly be organic, it has to have that label. So you may see some other labels that may be on there, but if it doesn't have this label, then it's not it has not gone through that certification process. So look for the USDA label. Okay. So another part of the environment is natural beauty. And natural beauty is something that is very important. We know that stress can lead to mental fatigue, less tolerance, lower mental health. It can make people more irritable, more angry, more frustrated. So the natural settings can reduce these effects, you know, being able to go in nature and have that communion with nature that can reduce some of these negative effects of that the stress can have. And also going into a garden, viewing a garden, there are studies that show that viewing a garden can reduce blood pressure, pulse, and increase your mood also. And so there's it can lower anxiety levels, being exposed to natural beauty. And we know that plants have a lot of oxygen. So being able to take in that oxygen is also something that is very important, and that can lower anxiety levels. Sunlight can increase relaxation and concentration. It allows people to be able to concentrate better. And they did studies with kids in school, and they found that the sunlight can increase, you know, when kids have more exposure to sunlight, it can increase their test scores, reduce discipline problems, increase engagement and enthusiasm. So it's very important for us to spend time in nature and gardens and things of that nature. And Andrew will talk in his part of the presentation about our community garden that we have at EWC. Natural remedies. So natural remedies sort of goes along with the natural beauty. Patients, there are studies that were done that showed that patients with views of trees had shorter hospital stays. They had fewer comments from nurses, negative comments about their health or negative health results. They had less pain, and they needed, they took less pain medication. In other words, they did not need as much pain medication. So just having the view of the trees help with that. And then there are cities, areas that have better landscaping tend to have more community cohesion and reduced crime. There are many studies that show that. The presence of hills allow people to live longer due to more exercise. And we know about the blue zone, some of these areas where there's a lot of nature and where people tend to live for a very, very long time. You know, Greece, there's one in Greece, there's one in, I think it's Costa Rica, Okinawa, Japan. The one that stands out is Loma Linda, California, because although it's in a highly urbanized area, the people there are known to be sort of an anomaly in the fact that they tend to live for a very long time. And it's mostly because of the high presence of Seventh-day Adventists in that area and the health practices that they have. So even if you're not in an area with a lot of nature, I'm sure we would all like to be in places with nature, but we can still, you know, live a healthy life. And I wanted to show some chart, this relating to a city that we're all familiar with, which is Washington, D.C. And so we know that, you know, with the way that a lot of these cities have been built, you know, you can look at the tree canopy, the amount of tree cover, and the wealth of certain neighborhoods, you know, and a lot of times where they put less wealthy people, especially Black people, they would put them in areas where there was less tree cover, you know, and the wealthier parts would be in the areas with the higher tree cover. So you can see sort of the charts here with the color, based on the wealth of the different neighborhoods and the amount of tree coverage that the different neighborhoods have. And pretty much every other factor, whether it's crime, life expectancy. I think I shared a chart a while back that showed that within DC, you can have a 15-year increase in your life expectancy just by moving from, let's say, the southeast area to somewhere in one of the northwest areas because of some of the environmental issues that are present there. So pretty much everything else follows the same color scheme that you see, and it all comes back down to environment. And I'm sure we're all familiar with redlining. So you know how they divided up the neighborhoods. A was what they considered to be the best areas, and going down, B, C, D, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see even with this, it sort of follows the same trajectory as well. Okay. So, and you can you can search this information for any other city and you'll see the main trends, but since we're familiar with DC, so I picked on DC. Okay. Solar power exposure is also very important. We know that the sun is the source of energy for the whole earth, right? Everything is based on the sun. We know that if we were just a little bit further away from the sun, it would be too cold to sustain life and we'd all be dead. If we were just a little bit closer to the sun, we'd all burn up and we'd all be dead. So having, being in the middle, just having enough sunlight to sustain energy, but to not also kill us is something that is very important. So we're plant growth, the sunlight provides plant growth, and with the plants that grow, they take the carbon dioxide out of the air and they release oxygen. They can also release serotonin, and serotonin is the chemical that is in our minds that promotes positive thinking. So reduced serotonin can cause a variety of different issues that we sort of relate to mental health issues such as ADHD, irritability, depression, aggression, inability to concentrate, etc. The sunlight impacts melatonin and sleep. So sunlight helps us with our circadian rhythm, and it tells us when to sleep, when to stay awake. We learned about rest last week, and we know that if we expose ourselves to too much light, with the blue light, with our phones and things like that, it can impact our circadian rhythm. Sunlight can kill germs also. It is a source of vitamin D. It can allow our bodies to produce vitamin D, which is used to build strong bones and helps against arthritis, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, and autoimmune diseases. Sunlight can also help us to lower our blood pressure. And although excessive sunlight can cause skin cancer, moderate amount of sunlight can actually help to prevent certain melanomal cancer. So, we know that if we're going to be in the sunlight for extended amount of times, it's important to have, to put on the sunblock, certain kinds of sunblock that can help us to have the benefits, but not to have the risks also. Mm. And then they talk about electric air. So that is a term that I had never heard, but the fresh air, the air that is in our environment, the fresh air is negatively charged. So it has a lot of negative ions, and these negative ions can allow a lot of health benefits just with the fresh air that can decrease anxiety, allow us to be more relaxed, improve our concentration and learning, It can increase the rate and quality of growth in plants and animals. It can help to protect the lungs. It can affect the body temperature and the learning, lower our heart rate, and decrease the severity of stomach ulcers and the survival of bacteria in the air. So, you know, a lot of the pollutants in the air can have a sort of a detrimental effect in that it can prevent us from getting the benefits that this electrified air has. And then, you know, we know about water, the importance of water. We all drink water. So it's very important to think about where we get our water from. Falling water gives off the same negative ion. So rain shower, just being in the rain, being in a waterfall or a creek, you know, flowing water can allow us to feel very relaxed, allow our mind to be relaxed, and allow us to have a lot of those same benefits also. Hydrotherapy is also something that is very, very beneficial. And maybe after the presentation, I know some people will be able to tell us more about hydrotherapy. It can improve our immune system, and using the hot and cold compressions, it can allow our body to use its own immune system to fight diseases. And it can also allow us to, you know, those who are dealing with pain, it can also help with that as well. But drinking water is one of the most important things. We need to consume enough water. And I know that there's an amount that's here, but I didn't get what the proper amount of water is to consume. I have one that I think it's in my mind, but I want to make sure that I say it correctly. But you know, allowing us to drink water can remove fluid from the kidneys. And what I wanted to say there is it's important for us to consume less caffeine, you know, so that we can be able to flush our kidneys. The dehydration makes the blood thicker and more likely to clot and can increase our risk of stroke and heart attack. So there are studies that were done that shows that heart attack risk decreased about 50% in people who drink at least 5 cups of water a day. And that's only water. No juice, no Gatorade, no coffee or this or any other aid, just only water. Water can remove headache, and it's needed to remove the contaminants that are in the kidneys. Water is best absorbed when taken on an empty stomach. So that's why they say first thing when you wake up in the morning before you eat, drink a full cup of water. That can help to eliminate all of the residual contaminants, if you will. And people who live in hot or dry environments or who do a lot of heavy work will need more than what they say 8 glasses per day. And I'll try to get a proper amount for that. And so cool water is good. It's not good to have extremely cold water, but you can have cool water. Okay. Let's see. So I wanted to share some links with everyone from the EPA. Let me see if I can find them. You know, this is one link and I'll put it in the chat. If you're curious about your water, your drinking water, this is called the Drinking Water Mapping Application Source. They give it a really long name, but there is a particular application that can be used. You can look at your waterways, you can locate potential source of contamination in some of the streams and whatnot. So let's say I'm curious about some of the sources of contamination, local sources of contamination, and maybe I'll put in the area of the church. So we know that in that area, there are some local streams, and it should be populating, but I don't see it. But there's supposed to be colors that are associated with each particular area that it's supposed to show. So I don't see that, but that is normally the way that it is, that that's supposed to work. And so what normally what it would do, each one of these waterways, you know, you have the Potomac River and the creek, what they will do, they will have a certain color. And based on the color, you can know the effect of that particular waterway, whether it's good, whether it's polluted, some of these other things. This is another source that you can use if you're curious about your waterway. And so it kind of works the same way, and I'll put that in the chat also. You know, you can search any address that is here. So if you are curious about the address that is close to the church house, and it shows you all of the, you know, the watershed where water from that area goes into. So from there, it would go into the Little Hunting Creek and into the Potomac River. I know it's sort of difficult to see, but here you can see the colors in terms of how impaired each one of those waterways are. And if you click on it, it should give you a little bit more information as to what those impairments are. So that's just if you are curious. So, and then if you, yes.
I'm a bit curious, so that all the persons, a person may not be living in that area, but you were talking about how impaired the waterways are. So are they taking water from those areas for drinking purposes, or just the fact that the water is passing through the area? And if it's impaired, how does it affect the population?
Yeah, so this is, if you go back with a particular link or one of the other links, it will talk about drinking water, and I'll get into that a little bit. This is just looking at the water, that particular stream or that river itself. And so it's talking about aquatic life. Now, based on and the EPA, they're the ones that do this, but based on the uses of the water, you know, they will classify how safe the water is for that particular use, for aquatic life, for fish and shellfish consumption, and some of those other things. So with drinking water, of course, we know that you have water treatment plants. For every particular locality, they have their own water treatment plant. So that's different. But this is what this is saying is, it wouldn't be wise to go and, you know, fish and just take some fish from this and drink it like that.
You just brought my point out.
Yeah. So with the water, I used, you know, since the location of the church is in Fairfax County, if you know where you get your water from, you can find it online. They're supposed to give the report. You know, every water source every water treatment plant or water provider is supposed to give their report. And so here, these are all of the reports. You can look at each one. So if you know what water treatment plant you get yours from. And so here, it looks like they take it every month. And on the right column, you see where the limits are provided. These are the limits that the EPA has determined are the, I guess, the maximum acceptable limit. And so these are some of these different parameters that they've determined. BQL means the below quantifiable limit. And for some, you can see that they're not available. So, and I'll have more information. There's some of these in terms of reading them. You know, it's important to know how to read them, but these are just some sources that you can use. And this is for WSSC, those who live in Maryland. Okay. So this is their report. I'll put those links in the chat. So with that, you know, we also know about herbs, and I wanted to, before I go to the portion of the presentation, I wanted to ask, well, I'll talk about charcoal, activated charcoal, which attracts other substances to its surface and holds them through adsorption. So that's what's in your water filters, and that allows certain water sources to be able, certain contaminants to be able to be filtered out. It can also help to draw toxins out of the body. So it's not something that is necessarily recommended to, I mean, use all the time, but if you're sick, you know, you have a stomach issue or whatnot. In fact, people will use it if they go abroad and they get sick or whatever. The activated charcoal is very helpful. And of course, and then it talks about animals who encourage people to be active, and that can stimulate the immune system. And it tells us that it can grant unconditional love. But I wanted to hear from some of you all about some of the natural remedies that you all use in your everyday experiences, since I know many people on the line use lots of different natural remedies. So I don't know if any of you all would like to share before we move on to Andrew's portion.
Well, when I went to Wildwood, I was given the opportunity of not necessarily opportunity, but I was put through the hydro hot and cold shower. I didn't like it, but it was supposed to increase my immune system.
Okay.
Increase my white cell. And also, I was told also in concerning your question concerning water consumption, I was told that half your body weight in ounces of water per
yes.
half your body weight in ounces of water. So if you weigh 20 pounds, 100 ounces of water is to be consumed within every 24 hours.
Right. Yes. Yes, that's correct. Okay. Would anyone else like to? Yes.
Also, sometimes we depend on the doctor to give us medication for hypertension, high blood pressure. And there are some natural remedies we can use, like garlic. And you mentioned drinking water on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Lemon juice in water, if you like it lukewarm or warm, and you can tolerate like 32 ounces, is very good because it flushes the body. First thing in the morning.
You mentioned about insecticides. I lost my brother. It is believed that it is because of insecticides. He was spraying ants in his yard. And within a short time, maybe a day, he came down with Guillain-Barré. And it was said that it was the insecticide that triggered that. Every system in his body shut down, except his heart. And it eventually died. So we need to use this insecticide with care.
Yes, yes, yeah. The Guillain-Barré, I think it's an immune reaction, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, you were talking about charcoal. I know a lot of people, when they travel to a different country, so they bring charcoal because their body doesn't respond to the kind of bacteria they have in that country. But also it's recommended if you have any virus, like, remember when we have COVID, there's some, I mean, we still have COVID, but less. But there are some countries that have less COVID cases than others. And then when they find that out, it's because they've been drinking a lot of bitter tea, like sorossi, vervain, those kind of tea. It's really protected them from that virus, or actually kills the virus when they get it. So they are left deaf. I think there was one of the countries in South America. It's probably 1 or 2 deaths. There was no more death from COVID, but then they found out it's because of those tea, the bitter tea. That's what protected them.
Mhm. Okay.
You're saying that I need to find me some Cersei? You're not answering.
Yeah, sorossi is good. Sorossi, vervain, there's one they call Artemisia.
Marby?
Oh, I don't know, Moby. Yeah.
Okay.
They say aloe vera is also good. To prevent cancer and cure cancer. Well, they say
Which
cure
one?
or aloe vera.
Aloe vera.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I think they said soursop also is good for people who have cancer. I don't know if it's the leaves or
Yes.
fruit itself.
Yeah, the leaves and also the
Everything.
leaves and also this everything from soursop. Yeah.
And of course, every part of a fruit has its own purpose, whether it's the seeds and the skin and the leaves and, So if you know what it's good for, nothing should should be wasted.
There are now even
I think papaya, some of us may not like to use the seeds from a ripe papaya, but if you take a tablespoon or a teaspoon of papaya seeds and eat those, they say if you have worms in your system, it kills them.
Yeah,
Yes, my mother used to say that. Yeah.
yeah.
well,
And then there's another seed that they use. They're using it now in a lot of third world countries to purify water, and those are the moringa seeds.
Yes.
yeah.
They're being used to purify water, so they're actually making water purification systems out of moringa.
The other day, I've come to learn about avocado seeds, that people are now drying avocado seeds, grinding it and mixing it with what? Rubbing alcohol and using it for their arthritis.
Yeah, my mother used to use that too.
Go back to your mother. Seemed like she knew a lot. Yeah. Well, you want to transition to Brother Andrew?
Yes, I'll transition to Andrew now, and I'll let him introduce himself first and what he does with the Loving Hands Touch Ministry and our church's community garden, and then I'll have him present.
Awesome. And my apologies. I'm using my phone right now, so it might be a little shaky. Laptop's been having issues. I'm working. So our partnership with Emmanuel Wellness Center, Emmanuel Worship Center, and our work together with Loving Hands Touch is part of a collaboration that involves multiple different people. Emmanuel Worship Center, Loving Hands Touch, Fairfax County Health Department, and And essentially, we started working together on a basis of let's help our community. Let's help our community be healthy. So 2023 was health is wealth. And Dr. Samba, who's the director of Loving Hands Touch, she brought me on board about a year and a half ago. And since then, we've just been making strides in our community, talking to people about health, nutrition, teaching people, being able to connect people with what we do. And in the community that we live, some of us are very privileged in the fact that, one, we can get up every day, have a hot shower and hot food ready. Some of us can get up every day and go to jobs or work that we own or businesses that we own. Some of us have the ability to just eat fresh food. So we want to help our communities, the communities around us, because yes, there's people outside of the world in other countries who are starving. And I believe, yes, we need to collectively, help as well. But you have to start right at home, because if you don't have the energy to get out of bed, if you don't have the energy to do the things that you need to do for you and your family, then how are you going to help someone who is 1,000 miles, 500 miles, 2,000 miles away from here or in another part of the country? So I want to start off by letting y'all know that some of my skills are in problem solving or finding solutions, regardless of the trade, regardless of the environment. My background, of course, as we discussed, is in business, as well as a son of a plumber. So, of course, son of a plumber also does plumbing, as well as other trade-based skills, whether it's electric work or HVAC work. But my skill sets, my strong skill sets, are in plumbing, home improvement, so things around the house that can possibly go wrong, and of course communication, because of course that is where I did my studies in. Now let's add on the aspect of food, and growing a garden, or seeing my mother with her garden in her backyard, and and going through a trial of my life where, being a child born with, a blood disorder, you have to you go through pain all the time. And, sickle cell, just to be clarified. And thank God, by God's grace, I underwent a clinical trial bone marrow transplant, and seeing that, wow, I don't have to get up out of bed with pain and joint pain, or I don't have to be worried or concerned that I might go to work one day and get a crisis or pain. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing tremendously. So that made me want to learn how to grow food, how to be even healthier. And that was 5, 6, 7 years ago of going on a journey of learning about health, healing, food, and how it helps, and then building a garden to where now I'm able to do that for others. So we are working with Emmanuel Worship Center to build a healing garden that can help that community and the people around that community, right? I believe it's 22309. And then at the same time, it's not just about a garden. It's about a place that people can come to learn, as y'all are all learning today, a place to build, as we are going to be building raised beds and building systems, a place to teach, as we're going to be sharing, learning about, I forgot whose mother who was talking about these herbs and these plants. I mean, this is stuff they don't teach us in schools. When do they teach us herbology in school? They don't teach us this stuff. So this garden here at Emmanuel Worship Center is going to be a place where we can all come together for health and wealth. So let's dive in. So I'm going to start by going over the first topic, which is sight. As in, what we see is what we believe. As y'all have heard, don't believe it till you see it, or you got to see it to believe it. Have y'all heard of that? Can I get, yeah, okay. Y'all have heard of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you see that feeling that you have inside of you when you feel like, oh, I shouldn't go here? Or, man, I feel like I need something to eat. And then you don't go there and you find out, oh, wow, did you hear what happened there last week? Or did you see what happened last week? Or you feel that feeling like you need to eat something. As Jean was talking about serotonin, was it serotonin, right? Yes. Imagine having a feeling of eating a specific type of food and then finding out later that that food that you ate helps to create serotonin in your body. And when you go to the doctor, you find out your serotonin levels are low. And no wonder you've been having stress, anxieties, headaches, and things like that. You did not see that. You felt it. It's powerful to understand that it is not by sight alone that we see. Seeing is also using the spiritual eyes. And that spiritual eyes, of course, where does it come from? Jesus Christ, God. So that being said, sight is so important because we will go different places. We go somewhere and, oh, the restaurant don't look clean. But I'm telling you, that could be some of the most tastiest food you've ever had. My kitchen, when I'm cooking, it can get a little mess, but trust me, you gonna come back for some more.
Andrew, let me push you a little bit by asking the question, how you connect that to the community garden?
I connect that with the community garden onto the fact that right now, if we were to go out there to the community garden, if we were going out there to the location, we are going to see big construction, big earth movers, like machines meant to move dirt. We're going to see a ton of leaves. We're not going to see a garden. We're going to see something that looks like someone is doing some construction. That's what we're going to see. But as we are progressing day by day by day, we're going to see that beautiful garden. And now, when we enter into that garden, as Jean was saying, being able to see plants is going to lower your stress, lower your anxieties. When you go somewhere, you can have a quiet place there. You can have your hands in the dirt, and while you're doing that, you're meditating. You are literally looking at something that was created by God, as we all are created by God, but man can also create things like this water bottle. He can recreate something that God has already created.
I'm just curious
Is there
about the question the pastor asked a while ago. My curiosity is, I got the impression from that question that there will be classes for teaching people how to cook.
Oh, yes.
Is that what I'm understanding from the
Oh,
question?
yes.
But before the cooking, Dr. Cargill, I think Mr. Kennedy has a question that leading up to your question, and I like your
my
question.
question is, what is there a relationship between the soil in which we plant our foods and our health?
100%. 100%.
I noticed that you were you planted things the first year to purify the soil. Why is that important?
Okay. So last year, we used sunflower seeds. Sunflowers. We grew sunflowers because sunflowers remove a lot of heavy metals out of the ground. And prior to that land, there used to be cars on the land. There used to be, just things that we may not know about because we weren't there. So being able to see car parts and things like that allows us to see that, okay, we need to clean this land. We need to make sure that this land is clean. And, there to the right of us, you have a car wash place. and to the left you have like a place where they have trucks. So ultimately, at the end of the day, water will flow. So yes, the sunflowers were there to remove all the heavy metals, arsenic, lead out of the soil. So that way, when we do plant, the fruit that we plant, we can then consume. Now, this year we've layered the land. Started from last year, we layered the land in probably 2.5 to 3 feet of leaves. So literally, if a 2-year-old ran in there, they'd be covered in leaves, just to give you an idea of how thick it was, how deep.
What
The
is the
reason
benefit?
repeat that?
What's the benefit of layering with leaves?
The benefit of layering is because, one, we've already tilled that soil. And because we've tilled that soil, now the microbes and the worms are like all on the top layer and whatnot. And they want to go down. Also, the leaves are filled with minerals, very powerful minerals, as the tree roots of a plant go deep, 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 deep down. And when it's bringing those minerals up, where is it taking it? To the leaves. So when the leaves fall, it returns that mineral back into the ground for the tree and for the other plants surrounding it. Similar to some of our elders in the room. They have all these knowledge that they gleaned from deep, deep down, whether it was time, history, experience, and they share this knowledge with the community or the people around them, like the young people.
So bring that back again to the land again. We are keeping you both that. You are trying to say that your community garden or the community garden is going to be an example that we can use. So although are you making it a community project or is it your project? In other words, I know it's a community project, but the intent is that the people on this platform, can they join you in participating in learning about soil content, putting their hands in the soil? Is there anything wrong with, if I put my hand in the soil, am I going to be hurt? Is something going to get disease in my body because I took up some soil?
No, 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 no. Actually, it's been shown that the microbes in the soil help reduce anxiety and depression. So actually, you're gonna feel healthier putting your hand in the soil. Now, this
That's
community
Dr.
garden.
Cargill's question, but I wanted you to focus on the soil and then to Dr. Cargill's question, because I think his question was, how
About
can
the
you
food.
bring, not about the food, but how can you bring an involvement of the planting time and the reaping time to the cooking time? I think these are 3 points. How do you expect that we will participate in the garden? So you have you're preparing a garden plot. Who do you expect to be involved? How can individuals on this platform who want to learn about soil preparation, to be able to not only to see the machines, but to be able to can they get a plot there? Can they participate in planting something so that they can see it growing? You can guide them. Those are the kind of questions. And then at reaping time, can they participate in the reaping? And in cooking time, that's Dr. Cargill is wanting to know, even though he may be planting his own garden someplace else, can he, is Andrew still there?
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can he, suppose I wanted to come and put down some
Can I
callaloo.
hop in?
Or
I understand.
Yeah, so that's the kind of question. I think the 3 questions. Soil
So,
preparation,
soil preparation.
and how that soil will impact us, and the seed planting time, and then reaping time, and then cooking time.
Okay. So in terms of involvement, because I remember you asked that question. So is Sister Moon on? I see Sister Moon back there.
Oh, she has a question.
Oh, no, no, no. I just wanted to bring up Sister Moon because she and Jean as well, and your brother as well, came out about a month and a half ago when we first had our first class at Emmanuel. And of course, that class was, of course, soaking the seeds and getting the seeds organized and prepared. And so that was the first community of us coming together in order to be a part, do this garden. Because the garden is not just being just right there in the dirt. The garden starts from the planning process to getting the seeds ready and things like that. Now, currently, this garden is going to be for everyone, really. The
Maybe you could
garden.
tell us what has happened to those seeds. You told me today, but I think it's important because people will want to know if they put in those kinds of seeds, what are the possibilities of the seeds growing and what are the possibilities of the seeds not growing?
Perfect. So we had probably around a 30% germination rate on the seeds. And the 30% is most likely due to the fact that a lot of the seeds were about 5 years old, 6 years old, and some of them were even older than that. And of course, over time, the seeds become less fertile. So they may not germinate as, as a normal fresh seed. So that's a great thing to really take into consideration if you are seed saving, because of the fact that if you want to seed save, make sure every year you at least grow one of those plants. So that way you can harvest the seeds from them and save it. And that's a great big learning lesson, as seeds are not cheap, and to spend even $100 or $200 on seeds and save them until you're ready to use them can may not work the way you expected it to, which is similar to one of the topics that I came to discuss that in the book that we read. And one of the discussions was organizational clutter. Now let's go back in terms of from soil to growing plants to cooking them. Right now we are building. Right now we are mixing up the soil. So I have several machines for them. We will be working together, all of us, to have a schedule so that way, once our heavy machines are out of the way, once the bigger systems that require individuals such as myself who's trained to operate them, after I move them out of the way, then it's ready for us to, all be a part of it and get involved. But unless, yes, go ahead.
What if I don't have land to plant and I cannot come down to the church house, but I want to plant? What are my alternatives? What could you suggest? I don't have any land space outside. What are some of the things I can do so that I can produce my own organic, at least seasoning or that kind of thing? What can I do?
You know what? You see this bottle right here, this plastic bottle? If you have a glass bottle like this and you fill it with soil and you put a couple basil seeds in here, before you know it, you're going to have a basil garden right here. Find anything that you can plant, maybe a planter. If you want to grow some of your fresh basil, that's the most simplest way. Now, let's say you want to do a tomato, a 5-gallon bucket sitting outside, or a 5-gallon bucket can grow a bountiful amount of tomatoes. A 5-gallon bucket. Also, you can grow on concrete. Did you know that? Did you know you can grow food on concrete?
Wow.
Take a bale of hay. No, hay, straw. Straw. Get a bale of straw. Put it down on the ground, water it thoroughly, and then plant your seeds inside. Before you know it, your seeds will be growing out of the bale of hay. Because essentially, all you truly need is water or moisture, nutrients, and sunlight or light.
How about a hydroponic garden?
Hydroponic garden, even much more of an avenue. And hydroponic gardening, actually, so I've done a few hydroponic garden setups. And hydroponic gardening, literally, you could take a bucket, one of the 27-gallon buckets, you can get it at $8. and you can put little holes in it. Well, it's called the crack key method. And what I can do, Jean, can you do me a favor? Can you look up crack key, Kratky, crack key method, and put that inside of the notes for people to look at? Or I could do that. Yeah, that'd be great. Hydroponic gardening is great. You know, it's great. Don't get me wrong. Now, the thing about hydroponic, or the thing to understand, is that the nutrients are not in the soil itself. It's in the water. That's, of course, the soil is a medium. The soil is just a medium, essentially. Kind of like the little bits of rocks. So the nutrients, which is in the water, in the soil, are just sitting in there, and the plants start to take that up. So in order to truly have a really organic type of system hydroponically, then you're going to have to either make your own fertilizer, which one can make. Last year, well, a couple years ago, I took worms and then I fed them all the compost and things like that, all the vegetables, all the bread we had at home, anything except for citric and meat products. And then the poop, as I should say, worm castings, as we call it, worm castings. I put that in a bucket. I mix it with some spring water or rainwater if you collect rainwater from outside. I put a little bit of unsulfured molasses because the bacteria likes to feed on the sugar. And then I use that on my plants, and my plants had a boost, had a very big boost. And the nice thing is I like to experiment. That's why I like to do a bunch of different things in the garden. I like to experiment to see if this is going to be better than this, which one's more natural. But at the end of the day, it's all natural. You know, we're not using chemical. We're not using Miracle Grow. We're not using all these pesticides. Worm casting, vermicompost, that is pesticide itself. You know, you can plant marigolds right next to your tomatoes, and it will prevent the aphids from getting on your tomatoes, and it will prevent the hornworms, the green little worms that like tomatoes. So, and that's called companion planting. Planting a predator of the predator that would eat the plant.
What are some other companion plants that you could use in your garden?
Oh, there is a myriad of them, such as you have tons of different peppers. Whatever pepper you like that has a nice, bold, powerful flavor, you can use that around your garden as well. Fragrant flowers such as lavender are extremely good in repelling other insects and little vermins that don't like that strong smell. Yarrow is great because it brings butterflies and pollinators, but also yarrow helps to prevent certain animals from even coming into the area as well.
All
So
right.
I could go on and on and on,
All
but
right. So,